Men today are terrified of being dominant, and with good reason, because there's such a fine line between being attractive and assertive and being controlling and a tyrant. But the issue is, we crave that polarity in our relationships. Without it, they just end up stale and uninteresting. We need that kind of pressure and release that comes from that playfulness of being dominant, being submissive. But so many men now are terrified to make that step. So in this video, I'm going to break down the 5 tips of how you can be dominant without being an asshole. Number 1, learn to build trust. What stops a dominant person being a tyrant is that the other person actively trusts them and is willing to be submissive around them. Without that trust, none of this makes sense. And think about yourself. Do you stick to your word? Are you reliable around that person? Because when I first get into a relationship, from the off, I'm building up a level of trust. I'm doing this by sending texts that, see you on Wednesday. I'll text you Wednesday morning for our date just to check in. And then on Wednesday morning, I send that text. Or if we're dating a bit more and I'm like, do you want to come over? We can have a casual night. We'll chill. We're not going to sleep together. And then what do you do afterwards? When she comes round, are you there then trying to pressure her? Because anytime you do this, you destroy the trust in the relationship between you, and she's never going to respond well to you trying to be dominant. None of these further tips are going to work if you can't be someone who is able to follow up on his word and establish trust with another being. So, secondly, once you've got that, become a man who is decisive. Be a man who can make decisions, because the most unattractive thing a guy can do is just answer, I don't know. It's like, where do you want to go tonight? Oh, I don't know. You pick. What do you want to do? It's weak and flimsy, and it communicates just such a submissive attitude that you're not you're not willing to put what you want forward. You're not willing to take a gamble and be confident in your own opinion that you know what you want to do and this will be good. Without that ability to be decisive, you're never going to come across very dominant or very confident. So learning that it's okay if you get the decision wrong. You don't need to be perfect every time. It's just being that guy that's willing to put his neck out there and be like, yeah, let's go do this. I'd love to go to the cinema tonight. Let's go there. And just be that agent of moving forward in the world and doing things and having things happen instead of having the entire world happen to you. Thirdly, play fighting. I play fight with all the girls that I date because it's such an easy and fun, amazing way to just experience the physical differences between you, how you are different. And it once again builds that level of trust that she sees you play fighting with her and that you don't take it too far, that you can understand the social dynamic here, that you probably are a lot stronger than her. And she gets to experience that in a safe, playful manner where you can pin her down, you can wrestle with her. I do this all the time, and it creates this amazing sense of playfulness and connection and that bit of polarity. And you don't have to go all out wrestling with a girl. I remember on a second date I went on with a girl that we were sat in the corner of a bar, and I slowly scale things up. So I would just sort of grab her hand and then just squeeze it a little bit tighter than what was normally comfortable, and then release and just see how she reacts to that. It's the squeeze and the release is that it's a nice pressure and release. People quite like it. If you just grabbed hold and never let go, they would find it weird and off-putting. But doing this is just playful, and it kind of escalated whilst we were sat in this corner, just more and more, until the point where I think I was just holding onto her wrists and she was playfully trying to break free, and I just let her go for it for 2 minutes whilst she was trying to struggle whilst I had my hand around her wrist. And then I was like, sympathy here. I just let her go. And the moment that I did, she sulked. She was like, "Ah," and then started pushing her wrist back in between my hands. And it was like, we did that step by step. We didn't just jump right to the end. We tested, like, okay, are you comfortable if I do this? Okay, what if I just very quickly grab your wrist and let go? And you scale it up with whatever's comfortable. But you do this through that playfulness, that play fighting, and it gives you that chance to just show a little bit of dominance, but in a trustworthy way. She knows at that point that I'm going to release her at any point, and she can start to put more trust in me and allow that polarity to grow and grow and grow. Fourthly, don't accept bad behaviour. Like, fundamentally, you're never going to come across as a particularly confident, masculine and dominant dude if this girl feels like she can just behave however she wants, however negatively around you, and that there's going to be no repercussions. You're not going to say anything or do anything. Like, this doesn't mean that you have to sort of scream and shout at her. Like, I've virtually never done that. I remember one relationship where I took the girl that I was dating out with a bunch of friends, and we went for this walk in the countryside. And for some reason, she was just like not talking to them. And they would ask her questions, and she'd either give like a very snippy response, or one time she just ignored him. And I was like, what is happening here? Because it was really out of character for her as well. She was shy, but she was still a friendly girl. So it was just really unusual watching her behave in such like a rude manner. So after we left them and we drove back and we were in the car, I felt like I had to say something, because I was like, that was just unacceptable. And I didn't shout, I didn't scream, I just laid it out. I was just like, hi, like, how, they're my friends, and I brought you along to try and sort of integrate you into my life, and then you just didn't speak to them. You were really rude. They were trying to engage and be polite with you, and you just weren't responding at all. And I think she had a reason, there was something going on, but she was actually really apologetic. And then I remember her later that night being sort of very, how would I describe it? Very connected to me, really being sort of, not exactly wanting to make up, but showing a lot of affection. That's what I wanted. That she was being really affectionate. And I think it was just because I'd shown her that I really like you and I'm willing to have this relationship, but I'm not willing to do it if you're just going to express the worst sides of yourself. And after that point, she never did anything like that again. And we established this thing that if there is an issue, there is a conflict in the relationship, it will get called out. And I also won't be an awful person about it. I'm not going to bloody shout at you. I'm going to treat you like a human being and just explain why I didn't like what you did. Then, finally, fifth, teasing and verbal dominance. Like, to be dominant, you can just be that by showing your like verbal IQ. Being playful and teasing a girl is huge. Give her nicknames, be playful and make jokes with her. And that I have seen girls get incredibly worked up and really enjoy it if you have that ability to just keep upping the playfulness, that if she just like zings a comment at you, you can kind of flip her on her head and just say something back that just takes the piss even more. Being dominant is about being playful and being socially intelligent. That's why girls love it, because you are treading that line. That line we discussed earlier is playing right on it, where you're able to be just like the tiniest bit mean, but in a fun way. So she knows that you're not being a dick unnecessarily. You're just being playful and just showing that little bit of dominance. So learning to tease a girl is absolutely massive. And I think we have a video on the channel that even describes all the best ways that you can go about teasing a girl. But before that, if you think you're really struggling, like the idea of being dominant is just, it's alien to you, that you couldn't ever see it, you can't put yourself first even, where it's likely that you're suffering with just like the nice guy syndrome. And this is something that affected me for ages, that I'd put everyone's needs before my own. The thought of being like dominant was just never going to happen. So if that speaks to you, then I recommend you check out this video here, because you're never going to be able to be dominant if you can't get over this obsession with just being nice to everybody. And I'll show you in this video why that is such a deadly trait and it will lead you nowhere.